Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Kaleidoscope Evening with Gelda program presents you today our guest, Gary James Spooner. Gary is a musician, writer, and poet from New Zealand. He has put together a collection of his work that spans many subjects from everyday experiences to the macabre, from flowers to romance, and secret observations to the seasons. You can find his work on Amazon under the title Emerging Words, as well as on YouTube. Wow! Be welcome, dear poet. Let's start our interview show. James, when music and poesy entered in your life?
Hello, greetings from down under here in New Zealand. Thank you for inviting me here. In answer to the first question, when did music and poetry come into my life? Well, I have a vague recollection as a child of my mother teaching me the alphabet with homemade flashcards, which she made from the cardboard out of cereal boxes. She was quite good at art. She used to draw apples and the letter A and tell me all about it. So very vague recollections, but that was like probably 4 years old or something like that. And from there I was introduced to Dr. Seuss, which was my first encounter with poetry. And I've since learnt that my aunt, who lives in England, she also writes poetry. My mother and father, they both enjoyed music. So I was brought up with everything from the likes of Debbie Reynolds, Trini Lopez, Harry Belafonte, etc. from mum's side. And from my father's side, Chuck Berry, Elvis, Lonnie Donegan, etc. And a bit of classical music and jazz thrown in for good measure. I was given my first guitar at around age 8 and have been pretty much self-taught. And from my teenage years onwards, I found my own musical tastes and influences, and that continues to grow and evolve and become even more eclectic.
In your opinion, what attributes should a writer, poet, and musician have?
Each poet has their own strengths and weaknesses. What I might be good at, someone else might not, and vice versa. So we all know where we're good and where we need more work. But I think the most common attributes that I see in many of my peers is sensitivity, humility, honesty, perseverance, patience, self-confidence. You have to believe in yourself. And a good grasp of the English language in regards to grammar and spelling, etc. Most importantly, I think you've got to believe in yourself and just keep persevering.
What were the biggest musical and poetic influences in your life?
Well, there's been so many. Musically, I think Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, very early Fleetwood Mac when they were a blues combo, Carlos Santana, the Alan Parsons Project. I think he was one of the engineers on the Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, but he was someone who I enjoyed quite a bit in my teenage years. But the list is a very, very long one, and I think I could rattle on and on ad nauseum about all my influences in regards to music. But poetically, as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Seuss. I didn't really sort of delve much into poetry until my late teens. My mid-teens really. And that was when the Alan Parsons Project had an album which tied in with Edgar Allan Poe's Tales of Mystery and Imagination, and that sparked my imagination really. And I started to read Poe. And I was actually enthralled, and from one who was never much of a reader, to be fair, I never really being a high school dropout, I was never much of a reader, but once I started reading Poe, it sparked my interest in literature. So so I really liked him, and Longfellow. I'm a bit of a fan of Longfellow, and Pam Ayres, an English poet. Some of you may or may not know of her, but she's quite good. The biggest influence on my own writing, however, has been my friends and my peers, like many of you probably who are watching this now. I've known many of you for quite some years. But my friends and peers that I've met online have helped me hugely with my own poetry. It's fair to say that I've probably written and read more of your guys' work and my own than I have from some of the famous and more academically lauded poets. As I say, I didn't really start writing till about 10 years ago. I was a high school dropout. I had very little education. I think they were pretty glad to get rid of me, actually. I was the typical disruptive kid in the class. But I've learnt more since I left school than I ever did when I was at school. So those of you who don't learn academically in the classroom, don't despair. That's not the only way to learn. There is the University of Life, which I am a life member of.
What advice would you give to the new generation of poets and musicians?
Humility. Just be humble. It's very important, in my opinion. Before you can master something, anything, you've got to first become its servant. And by that I mean invest some of your time in the communities where you post your poetry. Don't just post your poetry there and expect people to comment. You've got to be involved yourself. Encourage others. Don't be afraid to say what you think about someone's poetry. Always be polite. Just get involved. Try getting involved as an admin or a moderator. There's a bit of work involved, but as I say, while you're serving that poetry community, you are actually learning a lot. Interact online with your peers, exchange ideas and your thoughts on grammar and just in construction of your poems, etc. Be open to the critique of your peers. We can all learn something from each other, so we're still learning, all of us are learning, and we never stop learning till the day we die. Don't write with the main goal of gaining awards or accolades. If that's what you're doing, well, good on you. But I think for me, I would make it more of a goal to write each poem to the best of your ability, and check it for grammar, spelling, punctuation, metre, rhyme, all of those things before posting it. We all slip up from time to time, and don't be afraid to edit, and hey, we all make typos and all that sort of thing, but really before you post your poem online, scrutinise it, go through it, make sure you're happy with it, and then if someone comes with a question on your, as part of a critique, if someone comes back with a question of what did you mean by such and such, well, you'll be able to talk to them about what you meant. Don't compare yourself with others. Both writing and music are very personal and individual endeavours. There are as many reasons for writing and performing as there are artists. So, what's right for you might not be right for me, might not be right for everyone else, and what's right and vice versa, Doesn't matter whether you want to write free verse, haiku, traditional sonnets, any other kind of poetry, but just learn your craft well. Find out what you need to write a haiku. What is a haiku? Is it just 575? Is it something else? Delve into it and find out. Yeah.
Tell us, which bedside book would you recommend to your readers?
Okay, a bedside book. Well, any anthology of your favourite poets is good. You can just pick and choose. Really, I enjoy reading anthologies because you get a little bit of something from a variety of different authors. I've appeared in a couple of anthologies myself, and I also have a book of my own, exclusive my own poetry. It's called Emerging Words, and that's available on Amazon. Yeah, I'd go for an anthology for a bedside book.
Now, a message to the world, please.
Okay, a message to the world. Well, it was fairly succinct. More love, less hate. Heal the world before it's too late.
Poets, where do you find inspiration for composing and writing?
Inspiration is a very fickle thing. It comes and goes at its own whim. When it comes to music, I tend to get a bit of a riff or a motif or a bit of a tune in my head, and I'll just play it on the guitar, make a loop of it, and just jam away ad lib. That's where I find most of my musical enjoyment is free form playing, although I do a few covers as well from time to time. And for writing, well, that can come from a prompt online from your poetry communities, from nature. Hey, go for a walk. Go for a walk in the trees, by the beach, by the river, in the hills, in the mountains, down the street, in the city, anywhere. Or emotions. How are you feeling? You're feeling sad, you're feeling happy, you're feeling blah, emotions can bring inspiration. Real life situations, what's going on in your life. Affairs of the heart, it's always a good one. As I say, inspiration is a fickle thing. When it does strike, though, you've got to be ready to... when inspiration's there, you've got to be ready to tap into it. So always take your phone with you, and hey, if a line for a poem just pops into your head like they sometimes do, speak it into your recorder or write it down on your notes, or whatever works best for you.
And now, could you recite one of your poems for all of us now, please?
Okay, here's one of my poems. My preference is for 14-line structured poetry. That's my preferred modus operandi, shall we say? But that doesn't mean to say that I'm exclusively sonnet or anything like that. And in fact, some would argue as to whether this is a sonnet or not. Make your own mind up. There are a lot of prerequisites for sonnets. But anyway, this is a 14-line structured verse, and it's called Sun and Moon. Beneath the canopy of starlight's glow, a shadow cast through branches sparse and bare, illuminated, swaying to and fro, one simply cannot help but stop and simply stare. Sweet Luna, pale and rising full and round, her craters etched like lines upon her face. As stealthily she creeps without a sound, to claim her place suspended there in space. The sun, her lover absent in her skies, rains down on earth in other hemispheres. His light alone reflecting in her eyes, while shooting stars fall down to earth, his tears. But when tomorrow comes and dreams depart, she disappears, he can't contain her heart. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this interview, and it's been a pleasure talking with you all. Bye.
Great! Dear poet, it was a great pleasure to receive and interview you. Guys, hope you have enjoyed. See you soon.